Okay, then we just want to make sure that this is operating.
Well, it is operating. I just can't, it doesn't play out, so I can only hear over headphones.
Okay.
But
Oh, you see, you don't have a loudspeaker. You don't have a speaker on
No.
it. Okay.
No.
Well,
but I
all
can
right.
see, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. 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 These are the two which I think are rather similar.
For the past several months, we have been working on plans to make a film about the 1934 textile strike, which was described in some detail in our application to the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Well, Alabama did.
Oh, okay. They didn't respond.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councils on the Humanities, and which resulted in support being given by, you'll straighten all this out, support being given by all those councils to the project. What follows is a reiteration of that plan with additional information about the way in which our experience of doing this research has changed our overall conception of its shape and importance. Our original intent was, and then we can just take from one of the other things.
Okay. Okay.
We should list the state leaders, whatever they call them.
The state liaisons.
State liaisons, and plus Jackie Hall, plus
Janet Irons.
Janet Irons. Is Jackie Hall the liaison for North Carolina? I'm not sure.
I have that, so we do want to take a look.
Is Tom Terrell for South Carolina?
Tom Terrell is.
For South Carolina.
Then there's folks, like John Loopold. I don't know if we want to, if the John Loopold and Cliff Kuhn. I mean, I think they're mentioned in there, but they're not state liaisons. So.
No, I would think we'd want the state liaisons plus the extra ones that you know are important.
Okay. There might be some whom I haven't had any contact with, particularly people in Alabama or Tennessee, that I don't know anything about. So we should confer on those.
I don't know anymore, other than we certainly have John Gaventa in Tennessee, whom we already know about, and he's the state liaison for Tennessee.
Okay.
I don't know who else.
Okay, and they're going to want a brief description of their roles in the project. Now, for some folks, I have that. For others,
well, in each case, they'll be helping us to find the key people and resources in their and
resources come under the following of archival resources.
That's right.
People who
and we want to mention Alan Tullis because of his work on the book, Janet Irons because of her thesis, Tom Terrell because of his connections with the textile industry and his access to the archives, the photo archives. Obviously, Jackie Hall and her group. I don't know any others.
Okay. I mean, there's all those people that I listed in.
Oh, you should, Blicksilver, who will be, by the way, he responded to Vera's invitation to come to the thing. Sorry he couldn't bet there, but showed that he was still interested in the thing and would like to help us.
Okay.
So he will be a resource for industrial history. We should mention Harry Ashmore, who's going to give us some insight into the attitudes of the journalists, the attitudes of the people in the Greenfield-Spartanburg area, and help us find spokespersons for the development of the people who are who are developing the industry of the South.
Okay, should we mention someone like Hugh Jorgensen? He's not considered a scholar.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. A statement concerning the intended audience and publicity and distribution plan, which should be regional or national in scope.
All right. I think what we should say is that after we use a brief description of, our brief description, whichever one you pick, we should say, after working on the project for several months and talking with people who were a part of the strike, people who have scholars who know a great deal about the period, and archivists and museum keepers, we have broadened our view of the scope of the intended film. Period.
How?
We realized that the lives of the textile workers. We realized that the way the textile workers regard themselves and the way they look back on their own history is of particular importance. Period. We did not appreciate sufficiently the pain of remembrance, which we have found among many of the people who experienced the strike.
Can I offer a clause?
Mm-hmm.
Comma, let's say. Often expressed by their fear to participate with us. I mean, I don't know if...
The fear to speak frankly.
Okay.
Fear to speak openly.
Now, do we want to say that we have, we've uncovered this this element of fear?
Yes.
Which
we've in some places we have found people literally feeling ashamed. No, I think that's going to be a little bit too strong for them.
I think, if we couch it in, okay.
Our experience in talking with participants, with scholars, historians, archivists, and particularly with participants, has confirmed our feeling that the telling of this story can be of great psychological importance in helping people come to terms with the facts of their history. is that
Well, we can't say.
in collecting material, in preparing for our scripting and production, we have become to appreciate the opportunity this has given us to record a much fuller experience. The textile workers
Culture.
the experience of textile, no, God. Sorry.
Oh, don't worry about it.
As we continue our research, we are accumulating a list of institutions, museums, schools, libraries, teachers, etc. Not leave off teachers, library, where whose staffs have shown an interest in the subject and will be, comma, we suspect, comma, eager to use this film when it's completed.
Okay. And as well, because of our work with the Textile Union,
Mm-hmm.
we've developed a relationship with locals.
Sure. You say.
And our very process is helping them to see
Mhm.
that they could use
Yeah.
this as a process in
Yeah.
their work.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. And I guess I should just take material from from some other sources to talk about a loose distribution plan, or just leave it like this?
I think that's all. They say they want it just brief.
Right. They want a brief. They just want to also know that it's going to get out
Yeah,
there.
that's right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, a statement concerning the intended audience and publicity and distribution plan, which should be regional and national scope. That's pretty clear.
I think,
I do have a paragraph somewhere about that the people that we've come across, are very much our audience in terms of all the people that we've been interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
So I might include that too.
Okay.
All right, now, a production timetable and schedule of proposed activities.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we're applying for production funds.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of,
When that production,
we would get it, if we got it, what happens is if they like this,
mm-hmm.
then they'll send us the application. The application is due on April 12th, and the awards would be announced in June 1991,
Mm-hmm.
which would come right in time.
Sure, yeah.
So, they want a production timetable and a schedule of proposed activities. So I think based on having looked at all the materials, we have somewhat of an idea where we want to go.
We just say that that we are planning to spend the spring continuing our documentary research, doing some field work, and discovering new sources of information, ready for full production.
In the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now.
And we hope to complete, if funds are in hand, we hope to complete the work within a year.
Okay, now when you say the work, you mean the completed project?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, now, I guess they want to know what we're going to do with their production fund specifically. I guess that means, how long are we going to have to shoot this summer and that kind
Good
of thing.
God, we don't know.
Well, I think we could give them a loose list. I know that we want to shoot possibly one day with Janet Irons. We need to work with scholars.
Yeah, well, we're going to be doing more than one day with her. My God.
Okay. Now, do you think that's something that we're going to need to do after we've shot with everyone so we know how she fills it in?
I would think so.
Except for possibly, I guess.
And there are going to be other scholars as well.
Okay. Do you think we can be specific and generate? We know that we're going to shoot with scholars. We're going to shoot with Janet Irons, possibly in D.C. Who else do you suppose that we're going to be shooting with?
Well, we don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't like to say we're going to be shooting with Tom Terrell and we're not going to be doing with it.
Okay, but we could say we plan to shoot, let's say, 10 days with scholars.
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, 10 days with scholars. All right, now I think we need to go back to the Atlanta and Union area in June.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, and
certainly Alabama.
Okay, that's what I figured. So that's about 10 days between the two of them. South Carolina, Honey Path, Fort Mills.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, North Carolina, Dunn, where that woman lives, possibly. Kannapolis, possibly. Maybe the Gaston County area again, possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's what I figured. So altogether, that comes to 10, 20, 30. It's a month shooting that we could foresee. But that's what they basically wanted to know, a timetable. So do I tell them July?
We'll say as soon as the money in hand, we will, a schedule will be made out. We hope to finish the shooting by the end of, by the beginning of September.
We know that there's that reunion at the end of June. This actually is the second week in June.
Yeah.
So I think our shooting, I guess we could say, would be about 30 days of shooting spread out between mid-June and September. That's what we can see right now.
And we would have to explain that that shooting in early in June will be covered by money from other sources.
Okay. Now they want proposed activities. So maybe we can we know that we're going to want to shoot a reunion. We know that we're going to want to shoot with women strikers. We could say Eula McGill in Alabama. Okay, is there anything that you want to say about Eula?
No, she was a prime figure in the events in Alabama, and on pre-interviews has been one of our best sources of both direct experience and contact with other people active in the area.
And she was a strike participant and later on became a full-time organizer.
That's right, yes.
After she was blacklisted, soon after. Okay, and so she still has contact with many people in the area.
Yes, that's right.
So how is she going to be used? We're going to interview her and then she's going to take us around?
That's right. So she will be our guide.
Okay. And will she be a guide taking us to sites where the strike took place as well as to
yeah.
people that she might have worked with?
That's right.
Okay, and do you recall any of those people? Just
I
in
don't.
an abstract?
I don't have. But, we've got, that list is in my letters too. But I don't think we need to go into that detail.
Okay. All right. Aside from we certainly want to shoot with scholars. Okay. Scholars that will be covering, you don't want to say? Okay. All right. We know that we want to go to Honey Path. I think if we just give them a specific in each place,
sure, okay.
That would be helpful.
All right.
Okay.
And the Anniston area of Alabama,
Anderson.
Anniston. Anniston.
Okay, is that where Eula is?
Yes. Well, she's in Birmingham, Anniston. Birmingham
Okay.
Birmingham and Anniston areas of Alabama.
Okay.
And you know the other places.
Right. Now, did I miss anything in South Carolina? I mean, I think Honey Path's critical because of...
and we were... us, Greenville and Spartanburg.
Okay. And do we have anything planned there?
Not yet.
Okay, so I could just talk about Honey Path.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in Noonan, I'll talk about the reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Might I say Macon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
And give a little description of the community that we've come across there? Okay. Okay. Well, that's pretty loose. Now, I just wonder if, okay. Now they want a budget. Now, I've looked at these other budgets, but, we just might, I guess I need to just have some parameters so that when I look at the other budgets,
Do you know how much they are offering? This will be, we're seeking funds from other sources.
Okay. I just, do you want to, maybe we could take a look at a formal budget together.
All right.
Do you think that's a good idea?
I guess so, since they said we didn't do it before.
Just as a safeguard.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Okay. Now, do we want to say, since this is for production,
Mm-hmm.
well, we could say two things. Do you want to say that we're going to be bringing we will be sharing our material with them, material that we've collected in the areas when as over the period of time prior to production, as part of our pre-production, as the continuation of our pre-production phase, we will show them samples of our work and get feedback from them to prepare for our next series of interviews.
As we have done already, we will continue this process.
Okay, and while we're there in the field, do you think that if we're in the area of scholars, we might show them what we're doing at the time and get feedback from them? No.
Well, I would say this is an ongoing process.
Okay. One other thing is that this time we want to start including them in the production process in terms of us filming them on camera.
Yeah.
Which we haven't done too much
We'd
yet.
say, for example, we spent 3 days with Janet Irons going over her basic research and getting guidance from her on sources of information. We then have remained in contact with her by phone and letter, and we showed her the results of our recordings in December. In the future, we will be showing her more results of our field work, and eventually we'll be recording with her in Washington and perhaps on the field and other locations to complete the story, to get her help to complete the story. And that's just an example of
how we plan to work with scholars in the production phase. Okay. Now, when I do this budget, it's very specifically for these sites that we're going to. So I'll find out how much it costs to get to these places.
I think you just have to estimate that.
Okay. All right. in terms of proposed activities, do we want to include that we're going to be working with any young textile workers and try that out again, or?
Well, we can say that our showing of screenings with scholars and others have confirmed the validity and appeal of our approach in using young textile workers as our guides, and this will be continued.
Okay. I wonder if we sort of missed anything here.
Don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Material, broadcast quality recordings. I think that's very important that we put right up to the front.
Okay. Okay, we could actually do this probably right here at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we have about 43 hours.
Okay.
Now, should I mention where we've shot?
No.
No.
All recorded in the South on location.
Now, I'm just wondering if they might wonder, if you have so much material, why do you need to go out now?
We don't have enough to tell our story. And there are significant gaps.
Okay, but that's in the negative, so we don't need to.
Well, but there remain significant gaps. We also have how much archival we have duped and cataloged so much archival material, but there are also significant gaps.
Okay, I wanna. Just say that this is for the South Carolina Media Guidelines piece, so I know.
Contacts with universities, museums, and local libraries have assured us that there will be a ready interest, there would be a strong interest in this material for local showings. Period. Our previous contacts with PBS, where we have produced or co-produced 2 national fundraising specials and a number of other items that have received national broadcast, national release, national broadcast. Have helped us to make plans for similar release of this material. By the way, we should I guess we should start developing some kind of letter of see if we can get some kind of letter of intent, similar to those from PBS. And I should think about how that can be done.
And to whom is
Yes.
really the most critical.
That's right, yeah. Because I don't want to mess up our chances of getting, the whole dealing with the American experience right now.
Okay, now the next part. I think that's. I think in terms of distribution sources, I can again talk about the local sources that we're encouraging, and I wonder if I should look into for this. Is there a distribution source that specifically deals with the kind of sort of like community actions that we want to be involved in?
The media network.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if there's, in terms of
Museum of Modern Art, with which we have just completed an agreement for the distribution of images of the 1930s, has also expressed an interest in possible distribution. Compilation and commentary on the visual material from the 1930s, which will recently completed by Stoney in collaboration with Dr. Robert Wagner of Ohio State, will be receiving first showings this spring at the Society for Cinema Studies, the University Film and Video Association, and other venues, prior to general release period. Okay?
now
the script will follow the previously described outline, colon, number 1, an opening which will combine present-day testimony with historical footage to demonstrate the size and extent of the strike. Number 2, an introductory section giving the background of giving the origins and background of the textile industry in the South and its development and practices which foreshadowed the uprising of 1934. 3, a detailed account of the uprising as it manifested itself in 4 locations for the aftermath, its effect on the industrial development of the South, and on the social relations in the communities where the textile industry was dominant, and in some cases remains dominant. That's the outline.
Okay. Now,
in the period, in the latter portion, emphasis will be put on the importance of re-examining this hidden history, in quotes, and the ways in which this has affected and can affect the activities and attitudes of local historians and institutions involved in the recording and examination of the community's experiences. Okay?
okay. Now, I think they might want something specific, like one reason why we need money for scripting is because we want to locate 4 sites where the strike was occurring, where in each site.
Yeah, I would think we located those. We want to get more details on them and find more individuals.
Okay, well, so let's go over those
Okay.
sites, because
Okay.
then we could talk about them specifically.
Yeah, but I just don't want us to get tied down to these sites too much, you see. I think Bob has already done that too much for us.
Okay.
And I'm afraid of that. You know, maybe we won't get the money if we don't do it, but I don't want us to...
Okay, well, we could say there is one place. We could just say that, there are 4,
Mhm.
we want to be going back and forth
Mhm.
between the sites. One place in particular that we know that we want to really
Mhm.
focus on is Noonan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, this is for South Carolina, though.
Right. Okay. Now, we could say Hunyon Path.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't really know anybody there yet.
We don't know anybody there, and we may just get kicked out of the place. You see, we may find it impossible to work there.
Okay. We've done work in Rock Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, there's one problem for.
Specifically, those arrested are charged with attempting to prevent the reopening of the Noonan Mills. Reminiscent of
We
World
didn't
War days
mention,
is the hastily constructed internment camp in which the strikers
using
were
young
confined.
people as a guide,
This one is
No,
back
we
at
didn't.
Fort McPherson at Atlanta.
and it's been mentioned.
Armed guards patrol the
throughout
barbed
all
wire
this
enclosures
material.
surrounding the camp while the prisoners learn how it feels to be on the
Anyone
inside looking
interested?
out. The
For South
outside
Carolina.
might find a healthy appetite, and the incarcerated ladies make the best of their predicament.
We
But
haven't.
old Army grubs,
Well,
pirates,
we could mention the woman in Rock Hill.
The man in Rock Hill. A.B. Fisher?
Yeah, that's right. He was the... which one was he?
Well, he's a shop steward in his union.
Yeah. But what about the woman who's in the union now there, and we met her aunt or grandmother?
Okay. That's the secretary and,
Yeah. We could just say that this is we want to develop more of the kind of links that this illustrates.
Okay, so we could include a piece of his testimony.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the young person that we met so far there is A.B. Fisher, and and I could include a little piece of his script, and this is based on what he said.
Yeah.
We'd like to maybe go
Yeah.
back to his hometown if it still
Yeah.
exists.
And also we might mention that we have the funeral of the 7 strikers who were killed in Hunyapath, and we have oral testimony of one observer.
We do?
Well, we got that on audio tape. You remember when I was with
Daniel?
no, you'll find it in the testimony. I did this the first time I went south. But we need to record that,
Okay.
and to see if we can follow up on it and match footage with recalled experience.
Okay. So it's one of the things that we'd like to try and do, and we might want to say this, is take the footage back to Hunyapath
Mm-hmm.
and show it to survivors or find people from witnesses of people that were there. I don't think it's. I think that's not saying that it's definitely gonna that we're gonna be successful.
Okay.
That's saying that's part of our script.
Sure, that's right. Yeah.
So that should get now. In the letter to in the back to South Carolina and see what we can yield.
Good.
2 sites that we want to do this in for sure are Hunyapath and Fort Mills.
Yeah.
Okay, now where would I find that testimony from Hunyapath?
It'll only be in the letters to
Vera?
Yeah, to Vera. I just think you have to be general about that, because I don't even have the fellow's name right now. I just walked over the ground with him and he described what it was like. I got his name from Tom Terrell. So I put it in my notes to Vera.
Okay. Do you think it's would it be helpful to call for me to call
I don't
up Tom
think so.
Terrell?
I don't think so. I just don't think we need to,
Be
because
that specific.
that's right.
Okay. But if you had your druthers, I mean, what would you like to do with the Hunyapath piece? I mean, in terms of a larger question, a large question. I mean,
Well, I'd like to find somebody who was there at the funeral.
sure.
And I'd like to get this guy's description of what happened. We haven't yet linked up the experiences we know from written records and newsreel documentation actually happened in Hunyapath. We haven't been able to link that up with present day testimony and recollections. And there's still it's still unclear about the final outcome of the. No, we're not. We know exactly what happened. People just, that's been documented. You know, the whole thing just crashed. I'd just say we just haven't had that. We haven't been able to link it up with personal recollections.
From either mill workers or management.
Yeah.
Now, management would probably say that, you know, the union used these martyrs and all that whole kind of thing. And that's, you know.
I haven't yet found an industrial spokesman who had that kind of sophistication. No, we've done very little with industrial spokespersons. I think that's one of the big things we want to get out of South Carolina, is to get more testimony from industrial sources of the history of the industrial development of the Piedmont in South Carolina, and to help us understand the massive resistance put up by industry and society in general to the activities of the strikers. You know, I need badly to find one or two people who can speak that point of view. And I would think that is something we ought to stress in the South Carolina things.
Is there any, now, are there any scholars that you know that we definitely want to work with there that can fill in any of these gaps?
Look in the scholars list in South Carolina, and I think you'll find them. I know you might check with Vera on that, because she knows what those scholars do.
Okay. And an industrialist, you mean someone who was one of the movers and shakers of the cotton mill industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the people who were interested in the industrial development of the Piedmont. You know, there were people who were the local chambers of commerce. I don't know that the state had an industrial development commission at the time, but the equivalent. Sure, what they were doing to attract new industry. You know, we have that testimony from Rock Hill about how we have, from a worker's viewpoint, the effect of such activities on unionization in Rock Hill. What we haven't yet found are spokespersons who could speak from the industry standpoint. We hope to find witnesses, and we will certainly want to supplement that with the testimony of scholars who know that situation.
Was there anything else was there anything else in South Carolina that you would call that was a big event of some sort that we haven't been able to?
Oh goodness, there were, the flying squadrons came through Grangeville, Spartanburg, the whole Horse Creek Valley thing. Now you remember that Janet Irons explained that she did all of that from documentation, written documentation, because she couldn't find a single person who was willing to speak at the time.
Now, do we want to build into this script in terms of current issues?
Mm-hmm.
Where there are people that feel like they can't speak, we want to, on some level, include that as part of the story?
I don't think so. No. I don't think for the South Carolina thing we want to say that.
Okay, so we do want to spend some time in the Greenville, Spartanburg area as well.
Yeah. We particularly want to spend time there finding these industrialists. And Harry Ashmore will help us there.
Okay. Actually, it might be very interesting to get a media analysis, if there's any way we can, of what happened in Honey Path and the way that was treated.
It would be an interesting thing to see if we can find some kind of media analysis. We know that the strikers, we know that the union used the mass funeral at Honeypath as a device for gaining public support, sympathy for the strike. We have newsreel footage which showed that it was widely covered. What we don't know is the effect of this, and we are going to be looking for some scholar. We hope that with our access to the scholars we can do some kind of media analysis.
Okay, or a journalist who was around at the
time. Yes,
time.
well, and Harry Ashmore was there. He was a reporter in the area. No, he wasn't a reporter in the area. He was a reporter in the area a few years later, 3 or 4 years later.
But we could say that we hope Harry Ashmore will be able to lead us to a journalist who might have even covered that.
Yes.
And
Harry Ashmore, who went on to become one of the leading journalists in the South, grew up in the area and will be able to make such an analysis.
Or lead us to sources that
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
He might even be an interesting person to do if we want to continue to try and do this,
Mm-hmm.
having local people guide us through history. He might be
Mhm.
someone like a Bill Wynn.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I have to check to see.
And by the way, you might make some comparison that we have in Columbus, Georgia. A local Bill Wynn has made this kind of made these kinds of observations for us, and we hope that Ashmore can do the same thing in South Carolina.
Now, when you say these observations, it's a little general. How would you characterize
The social and political impact of the textile industry and its labor relations on the subsequent development of the community.
Okay. Now, if this footage hasn't been released, and it might very well not be,
Mm-hmm.
then that kind of makes it even more interesting because.
Sure.
And I have a feeling that wasn't a formal. I'm not sure that was a formal newsreel that went out anywhere.
It wasn't. What we don't know is whether it was actually released or not.
I think it wasn't released.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating to find out.
Well, that's easy enough to do. It's in our notes.
Mm-hmm. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it'll say whether it was released or
Okay.
not.
No, but I mean, that we don't know that there was any newsreel. We know that there's coverage, but we don't know that it was actually used. Okay. This would be an interesting thing. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you just speak on that for a
Okay.
moment?
We know, for example, that there was extensive newsreel coverage.
We have it.
We have extensive newsreel coverage
And
of
we
the.
might want of a really verite style. I mean, it really
Yeah.
just covers what's happening
Yeah,
with
that's it.
absolutely no editorializing.
Yeah. But so far we have found no evidence that this material was actually used in the weekly newsreels, the Fox newsreels. We have further research to find out if any such coverage was given, and to what extent this was a frustration of the attempts by the union to use this as a publicity device or a device for gaining public sympathy for their cause.
Now, is there a Fox Movietone scholar that you know of that might talk about when things were released or not released? And
Well, the only person I know who knows that fairly well is Ray Fielding, who's now at head of, he's the new, he wrote a history of the newsreels called Yesterday's Witness, and he is now head of the new film school at University of Florida at Tallahassee.
which is south.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, now would he be a worthwhile person to talk to about
Oh, sure.
an issue like that?
I could talk to him on the phone and say, Ray, that we have this thing. What method do we use to find out if it's if there was a follow-up release? Yeah.
Okay, and I wonder if we might even take this to some old timers in New York. Someone even like Saul. Well, we showed it to Saul Stetton.
Mhm.
He knew people that were in it, but he'd
Mhm.
never seen it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he knew about it. So
Well,
obviously it
he-
hadn't been shown here.
That I don't think that.
That's important.
Well, I think it's if we could find out whether or not it was released. You see, whether or not Saul actually saw it, you know,
Right.
that's something else.
Okay.
Easily spend the $10,000 in South Carolina doing this scripting and development, which would include a recording of a lot of this material, a lot more of the material, Well, we only spent, what, 3 days recording in South Carolina?
Okay, now, so does scripting include production funds? In a
Well,
sense?
in previous scripting, I mean, the pre-production grants, we have done a lot of that recording, and we can figure on doing more of it.
Okay.
Pre-production and scripting, you see.
Okay. So they have pre-production research and development. Scripting is something separate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure that.
Mm-hmm.
I
see what
wonder
you
if
mean.
we're really asking for pre-production research and development money continued for South Carolina, which
Mm-hmm.
they already gave us.
Yeah,
So that's a problem.
that's true. You're right. Yeah, so it should be scripting.
Now, so I don't know what kind of fine line there is between.
I don't either.
Now, should I call them up and get?
No, I don't think so. I think that we just have to go for scripting. Because this is, we don't want to run into our, you see, they're going to say, oh, well, why don't you apply? Why didn't you apply? You apply to our, see, originally what they said is that we're going to discourage you from applying here because we are contributing to the Southwide production grant, you see.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing is that in order for us to go and continue to do, we have to make a link for them. That in order for us to do the production in the summer, we need to do the scripting in the
That's
spring.
right, yes, that's right.
But our scripting is really the equivalent of pre-production.
Yeah. So I think it's your time down there, your salary, cost of the newsreels stuff, cost of consultation with the scholars, travel, etc.
Okay. It also means going to D.C. to find materials on the South,
That's right.
on South Carolina. So going to the National Archive.
Yeah, and finding the letters, and sure, yeah.
Okay, and I'm just concerned that this has all been outlined as part of the pre-production phase, and
I just think we have to say this is what we need to do.
okay, and we consider this scripting.
Yeah, and we'll just see how much it adds up to. May not add up to $10,000, but if it doesn't, so be it.
Okay. Let's talk about, to some extent, the role of the scholars in the scripting part. I know we had this meeting earlier where Tom Terrell was very helpful with us on the 28th. But do we want to build into the scripting some meetings with scholars?
Well, as I said, we have to. That's part of our budget is meetings with meetings with South Carolina scholars, and so we should allow a number of days and trips down there for me and you.
Okay. Now, have you has there ever been any so what I guess what we need to do in here is this very practical piece, and then we take text and materials that we've had already, that we've gotten already, and show that. I mean, in terms of, we have the young scholar, the young man from Rock Hill, and we have his testimony down on paper, and then that person, we give a description of him, where he might take us, for instance.
Do we have pictures of him?
Well, he's in the footage.
But we don't have a picture of him, do we? Still.
From that day? I don't think so.
No, we didn't. No, I don't think so. No.
I could talk to him. I'm sure he could even send me something.
No, not necessarily. No, I'm just thinking that if we had.
But we will send them the tape, and he's on it.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
anything more that they can want than
That's
that.
true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So does that make sense to you? Let's just quickly go over all the different ideas that need to be put into the budget.
Okay.
I know that most of it's outlined, but
your time in Columbia, your time in the other places in the state, the duplication of archival footage and other duplications, fees for the scholars, my trip down to meet with the scholars.
Possibly, when you come to meet with the scholars, if I've already made contact with people, then I can take you around and you can meet with them.
And preliminary recordings.
Okay. Now this includes Washington.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yes.
and there are local archives in the areas that haven't been dealt with at all,
Yeah,
in
that's
terms
right.
of local libraries and historical societies, I
Yeah.
assume. Okay. And do you see that as a month or two, or, I mean, I'm just trying to,
Well, I think it says it's going to take you at least a month, wouldn't
just
you?
in South Carolina,
Well,
in that area?
then you're going to cover other things, but I think South Carolina and Washington, sure. I would think so.
Okay. And
Wait, by the time you figure it up, it's going to be around $10,000.
okay. And you don't think I should call to find out what the limit is?
No, I just assume that.
Okay. All right.
Steadily as years progressed, you know.
How did the management change to make you earn that money?
They would try to keep us busy doing something of it. If we caught up a job, they'd try to find us something else to do. Like if when I first started, I was in just a supporting group, you know. I'd pick up quills and yarn all off the floor and all this, that, and the other. You know, as I learned to do other jobs, when I'd catch that job up, they'd put me around helping the others that wasn't caught up. Person having trouble with the job, that's where they started improving the work schedule for us.
Now, I've heard people talk about the stretch out. Could you talk about that, use the term and then explain it?
Yeah, they use the term stretch out as when they give us more workload. Talking about weave room, which I was in, they'd be running 10 looms, and you'd be doing pretty good, making pretty good money on 10 looms. Well, they'd give you 2 extra looms, no extra pay. But they call it the stretch out system. Now I go into a plant, one person running a whole acre of loom, just about it. But they have improved so that it's possible to do that.
Well, now, in okay, just a moment. We'll reload and enjoy it. But you've been